so mad, we're so glad you tuned into Lady Probs.
Welcome to our very first episode of Lady Probs. We are your hosts, Brittany
and Kaylee
Winfield. And yes, we are siblings with similar voices, and sometimes it's confusing, but we are two different humans.
Yeah, we're sisters. We grew up in the same household. We're actually from New Jersey. Shout out. Yeah, we went to the same high school. We moved up to Vermont at the same time. So we definitely have the same experiences, but different perspectives, weirdly enough.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's things in our childhood where things went down and we just want to be able to talk about it because we just never came from a family that talked about many things together, and now's our opportunity. Like, remember that one time?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it here, and we're going to record ourselves doing it.
Yeah, and oddly enough, we decided we wanted to start the Lady Probs podcast because of quarantine. You know, we were Zooming with our parents a lot, our mom and our dad, and Dad would get bored, so he'd log off, and we'd just be there with our mom, like, chatting it up. And there was just one time that I happened to be in the supermarket, and my favorite tampon brand, they decided to rebrand just for the purpose of separating their supers and their regular boxes. So now I have to buy $20 worth of tampons, and I just had so much beef with that. And after a while, like, I think Brittany and I, we actually made a physical list of, like, how many problems identifying females, like, come across in their life. Yeah. And we're still, like, fighting for it. And it's not just, like, big, like, obviously we have the wage gap, we have reproductive rights, things like that. But it's also just super simple stuff in our life.
It's like stuff that cisgendered males don't have to think about on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's so strange. Just, like, for example, why is shaving cream gendered?
Exactly.
Like, has anyone thought of that? Like, maybe it's just me walking around the supermarket a lot, like, being really pissed off. But, I don't know. I just think about, like, why we think this way.
Yeah.
And, like, live our lives this way.
Yeah. And, you know, for me, it's more about, like, the ever-changing political climate. And especially, we are launching this on November 2nd. But tomorrow, being November 3rd, we have a big decision to make as a country. And with the loss of RBG, I'm afraid we're going to go backwards. So with this podcast, we really just want to bring awareness, bring education through the research that we're doing for this podcast, and also just, you know, tell fun stories. You know, we are siblings, as we said, and we do have different perspectives on the situations that have happened to us growing up, and I think it'll just be fun to put on a recording and
spill the tea.
Spill the tea, exactly.
And speaking of that too, I just want to clarify that, like, Brittany and I are not experts in this field. Like, we aren't therapists, we aren't researchers. Like, Brittany, you majored in communication, right?
And I was a media studies major, so I do know how to research. So we will put as many sources as we can to it, and I can promise you that if we have a question, we're going to research it as much as we can
thoroughly
through a non-biased source and provide that source when we can. But yeah, we're no experts.
I am currently majoring in art, so there we go. But yeah, I definitely encourage our audience to please, like, we're here to spread awareness, but we're also open to be educated as well. So if you have any resources or programs or a different opinion than us, like, let us know.
Yeah,
you know, that's why we're here.
We want to start a discussion. So, you know, join us on Facebook. You can find us at Lady Probs Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We have it all. Join us in the YouTube comments if you're watching this on YouTube. We are just so excited to talk and rant, and we're going to have some guest stars on this upcoming episode that's launching today. We're going to be featuring Taylor Small, who is a representative in Vermont and just ran a historical race.
Amazing.
And we're just so excited to bring this to you. And yeah, when we come back, we're going to start talking about the topic of what makes a woman. Stay tuned.
Okay, so on today's episode of Lady Probs, woo-woo, we're talking about what makes a woman.
This is, we know, a very sensitive topic for most. It is a very subjective and complex question to ask, and it is controversial, and I don't want to say taboo, but that is the idea we had behind this podcast, is bringing education and bringing awareness to these more controversial topics. So just before we get into this discussion, we do want to just disclaim that.
Mm-hmm. And just starting off, I just want to define what is a woman, you know? So there's different things that people argue about, but basically, when we talk about a female assigned at birth, that is your biological sex. But gender, on the other hand, refers to the roles, behaviors, activities, attributes, and opportunities that society creates. So actually, gender itself is a social construct. And like, on this episode, like, no matter what your orientation is, like, we're talking about the essence of a woman, you know? Unfortunately, the reason why the idea of a woman is changing right now is because our society creates these behaviors and roles people feel like they have to fall into. But I find that the upcoming generations are really blurring those lines, which are excellent, I think, because, like, why should we get shoved in a box? So just thinking about that, things to think about, like, when did you think you were a woman? Like, when is that transition from girl to woman? When is that transition for you something else into a woman? Like, that's what we're talking about today. And like, we're going to look at a couple lenses, like economically, historically, politically, culturally, socially, physically, you name it. So getting started, like, Brittany, when did you feel like you became like a woman, you know?
So my girl to woman transition, for me, it was an economical change. So the first time I was like, okay, I'm on my own. I need to be this independent female taking on this independent role that was instilled with me from my parents, was when I moved to Vermont. It was when I moved out of my parents' house. They cut me off of like the phone bill, which, you know, I willingly did. I was 100% independent. I was on my own health insurance. All of that went into the fact that, oh poop, I'm on my own now. Like, I am no longer this little girl who has to rely on mom and dad. I'm no longer this little girl who, like, I have a big girl job. Like, I'm out of college. I can't mess around anymore. Like, it's my time to shine and to really harness that strength and go into these weird years of, like, I don't want to say loneliness, but, you know, it's a very puzzling time when you move out on your own, and it just, I don't know, it's what made me the person who I am today. Like, a few years ago, you kind of have to be lost in order to find your way, and that was when I took all those and started my journey.
It's funny you mention this. So with all of my research, I just start with Google, right? Like, Googling these questions.
Of course.
And, like, the first thing that pops up is, like, in general, the number one sign of becoming adult is creating a budget. Weird.
That was the first thing I did.
Yeah.
That was literally the first thing that I did.
And when we talk about, like, financially stable, we're talking about, like, having housing, like, creating your career. Was there not just, like, that whole thing, but was there, like, a pinnacle moment that you woke up one morning and you're like, I'm woman, you know?
I think so. So I don't want to make this about a relationship, but, like, when I moved up to Vermont, I was still in a relationship at the time, and what I thought was serious was not serious. Like, It was just like a college crush that turned into a relationship. And at that time, like, I was so not dependent on him, but I was very, like, emotionally invested. And so my point of waking up and being like, I am woman was, like, after that breakup, I was like, I don't need him. Like, I moved out for a reason. I am financially stable for a reason. I am doing my own thing in Vermont for a reason. I got this job all on my own without the help of anybody else. Like, I am just me right now, and it feels awesome. Like, I am single. I'm independent. I don't need no man. I don't need my parents' help anymore. Like, I got this. I just woke up one day and I was like, all right, well, let's not be sad anymore. Like, you're in a beautiful state. You're doing this thing, and you can do it. Like, you don't need anybody's help.
Yeah, and it's funny too because I feel like people think that it's a moment in life, like it's like a movie, like it's a moment you wake up one day and you're just like, I'm a woman today. And I feel like that's why, like, in the eyes of the government, like, you're a woman when you turn 18. Like, historically speaking, you're a woman when you get married or give birth. I mean, when I started growing up, like, I thought the moment I would feel like a woman was when I got my first period. Not the case.
No, I was not 11 when I was a woman. God.
Yeah, I was not ready to take on the world when I got my first period. Like, Jesus. And then culturally too, like, there's people have quinceañeras, which is a very beautiful celebration where a 15-year-old girl goes from having flats to now high heels, and that's their transition into being a woman, which is very symbolic. Like, for me personally, I think, like, I'm 23 years old. Like, you'd think I would became a woman, like, back in high school, but that's not the case either. I think when my environment changed and how I thought about myself changed, and to bring it back to a relationship, unfortunately, too, like, the people I were dating, I still saw myself as below, like, quality. And then the person I'm dating currently treated me like a woman.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't treat me like I wasn't worth anything. He treated me like, and he talked to me like a sexy, beautiful, capable woman. And I think it took me saying positive words about myself and really embracing my own body in order to be like, you know what? I am a sexy, beautiful, capable woman. Like, let's go.
To bring up that point of, like, there was a time in my life where I was so nervous to, like, talk about sex, to even say the word sexy, like, made me feel, like, icky inside.
Yeah.
And I just, nothing to do with body image, but that also is a good point of, like, that's another time when I was just like, okay, I'm a woman. Like, I'm hot. I look awesome. Like, I'm going out and I look fantastic. Like,
it's confidence. Like, that's confidence. What it is.
Exactly. It's I'm sexy. Like, I've got this. I'm going to put on my, like, heeled booties and I'm going to rock the night tonight. Mm-hmm. And that's another time. Like, as you said, it's not that moment. For me, it was more of a feeling, like, that confidence that I've got this. I am on top of the world right now. That's when you feel like a woman.
Yeah.
Or at least that's when I felt like a woman.
And it really is different for everyone. And that's why it's such, like, a complex question, is because, like, maybe for someone it might be putting on makeup for the first time, like, makes them feel like a beautiful, strong woman. Maybe it's, like, losing weight, or maybe it's when you've had sex for the first time. Maybe it is a celebration. It really is different for everyone, but I think it is important to identify and embrace that moment.
Yeah.
You know, because being a woman is a privilege. You
it
know,
really
like,
is.
I'm honored to be a woman. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And, like, my question for you is, like, what's your favorite part about being, like, a woman? You know, like, what do you like? What do you like about it?
This is such, like, a complex question because there's so many things I like about it. But I really love the power of empowerment. Like, when I went to the Women's Rally Boston, I think it was like last year or the year before that, being surrounded by a group of women who also just want to fight for justice and like feminism and all that stuff, they just made me feel even more so like I had something to fight for. And when you talk about women, there's just such empowerment in
It's
that.
just like a sisterhood, you know?
Exactly. And it's just, people are so supportive of you, and you're so supportive of them without trying too hard. And people make fun of like our gender for that, and there's no reason for it. Like, men make fun of women who like chat in the bathroom at a bar. Well, sister, that makes me feel even better about myself, and I love giving out compliments. So,
or like on Instagram, I've seen guys do this where they like hate on girls who are like, oh my god, I love your picture, oh my god, you're so hot, like, oh my god, blah blah blah. And I'm like, would you rather us be bashing each other all the time? And like, I think that's where the phrase like girls supporting girls comes involved, that there's such like a sisterhood and we should be lifting each other up, because we really are in the same fight together. Like, we've all struggled. And that being said too, I know there's been controversy with J.K. Rowling in the news lately, where she don't quote me on this, but she loosely stated that trans women aren't women, right? Mm-hmm. And I highly disagree. Yeah. You know, I don't care if you have a vagina or not. Like, if you're nice to me, like, you know, I will embrace you into the sisterhood.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, what? Who am I to tell someone else like how they're gonna live their best life?
Yeah,
and I'm here to support you living your best life.
Exactly. And I think that the struggles we go through, whether it's a conscious struggle or a subconscious struggle, as you mentioned, like the whole tampon situation, it's something that I didn't think about, but when you mentioned it and it like came to the forefront of my brain, I was like, yeah, that is a problem. And then it started a dialogue between us. And I feel like those types of, like, the more we're able to talk about these issues, the closer we'll bring women together and just become allies for each other and lift each other up. And that struggle, getting to the other side of it and having that strength and finding that confidence, it bonds us all together. And I love that whole aspect of it, whether it's reading about, reading a book from a female empowerment author, whether it's, supporting each other in the dressing room or supporting each other in the girls' bathroom
or online
or whatever it is, it makes you appreciate the little things and forget about all the crappy stuff that comes along with it. And for that moment, you see the hope and you're like, wow, things are actually going to get better from here.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you. Like, I love the sisterhood, that I could just like be like, oh my god, I love your scrunchie.
Where'd you get it?
And someone would be like, oh my god, I love your scrunchie. Like, I love that. But the other thing that I love about being a woman is like the strength we have, because we have so many obstacles that like, even though we've had different experiences, like we all have struggled somehow as a woman.
Yeah.
And what I really love too is like the idea of like motherhood and like the strength of the vagina itself, which I know is like really weird to think about, but like you literally bleed every month and you are alive right now. Like, that's so crazy. I read this thing the other day on the internet that like biological women have a pouch in front of their vagina. It's basically like a pocket of fat that protects your vagina because it's the most valuable organ in your body.
Yeah.
And like, people just think it's like they can't get rid of like extra belly fat, but it's actually like a evolutionary advancement, whatever, science, to like protect your vagina. And I was like, dude, what? And like, yo, people, like, we have been giving birth and like pushing the human race forward from caveman era to like now.
Right?
You know? It's insane. I want to cry thinking about like our ancestors. I was gonna say forefathers, but foremothers.
Yes.
Thank you.
Foremothers. There you go. Oh gosh.
Snaps. But yeah, and then that brings me to my next question. Like, what do you hate about being a woman?
There's a lot of things.
Yeah.
So one thing that I will talk about in future episodes that I have personal struggles with, and not many people like know about this, is the rising cost of birth control and contraceptives. Like, there was a point in my life where I was required to pay $80 a month for birth control. $80
That's
as
like a heating bill.
As a 15-year-old required to be on birth control pills. So, just as a preference for a future episode, I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, but that would be my biggest struggle is like the whole concept of contraceptives and women being required to be the ones on birth control, and people today, even if there was a male birth control pill, refusing to take it. Just that whole issue and that whole debate, and it just infuriates me, and I don't want to go into it because I don't want to get like too mad about it, but that just, it pisses me off so much. And then, you know, just people saying like, oh, we shouldn't have like free tampons or pads, like women should be required to pay for it since they're the ones getting their periods. Like, bitch, Viagra's free, okay? So shut up.
And then, like, also, women are 50% of the population in this world. Like, you can't just ignore that fact just because everyone doesn't get their period. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, the thing that I hate about being a woman the most is, like, how I don't get taken seriously a lot of the times.
That too.
Like, people think I'm a terrible driver. I had a kid in high school I was driving who was like, oh my God, you're bad at, like, fixing your, like, driving in a parking spot, like, fix it. And I was like, can you, like, not for a minute and, like, let me straighten the car out so we can get lunch together? And I'm like, people think I'm too bossy if I want to pay on the first date. People think I'm, like, too overbearing when I speak a lot in my college classes and with authority. Being a manager, people don't take you as seriously. Or being in small business, or even just whenever I worked in retail in high school, my manager didn't want me getting the carts outside at night because of the world we live in, where, like, someone could kidnap me and do bad things to me, and you know what I mean? Like, or I don't even know if it was that, or that it was just like they didn't want me being in the elements. They rather had the guy who was working do that. And I was like, why? Like, why do the guys get to take down the rugs and I get to be at the cash register? Why is that? I worked there for 3 years, and it took me until the last day to learn how to do rugs. And I was like, I can literally lift this stuff. Like,
it's easier than having to wait for somebody to do it.
Yeah, I worked at a furniture store, just saying. Just so there's more context. But I can't even tell you how many times, like, we would put furniture in somebody's car, and a male would come up to me and be like, a male customer would come up to me and be like, oh, are you sure you can handle it? Yeah. Like, this is my job. They wouldn't have hired me if I couldn't lift this piece of furniture right now.
About 2 years ago, I used to be a supervisor for the company I'm currently at, and I used to have to do reference checks for the onboarding process. And there was this one reference I called that you can kind of tell from the first moment he said hello on the phone that this guy, who is this reference for a candidate, was the chauvinistic type. And so, it's just the tone. Like, maybe I'm overreacting. But at one point during it, there was a whole list of questions I had to ask him, about 10 questions. At one point, he goes, wait, you're a manager? I thought you were the secretary.
Hello? Like, what?
And I could not believe, like, how do you...
It's like, what?
How do you respond to that? Like, no, sir. Like,
no.
Oh, my God.
You're like, do you want me to fax you my resume?
I'm trying to hire this candidate, as my supervisee,
Mm-hmm.
and you were not putting in a good impression, if this candidate is friends or formerly your employee and you thought he was a good judge of character to be in your previous position and you're treating me like this,
Like,
no,
what?
I don't want him anywhere near the admin assistant position, which was the position I was hiring for. I just, oh God, it got me so bad. No, I'm not the secretary. I am the person who will be in charge of the admin assistant. Thank you very much. Click.
And like the funniest thing about it is that we're laughing right now just because of how overcome we are with just like it's ridiculous.
It's so
The thought
stupid.
process.
It's so stupid. And like, I have so many more stories of just
So many more stories.
so many dumb comments made. It just, and you don't see it coming. That's the thing that it's
Yeah. You think you're doing good in life, and then all of a sudden it slaps you in the face.
it slaps you in the face. You're just
Yeah.
walking down the street and you just out of nowhere get catcalled. It's
Right?
like, wow, today's the day. Like, and
Yeah.
I'm wearing sweatpants. Like,
And a giant winter coat, and it's below 40 out
exactly.
in Vermont.
Oh my
yeah.
God. You just like, you never see it coming, so you don't know
Mm-mm.
how to react. I
No.
I can't. But yeah, so I would say the whole concept of just birth control,
Being
catcalling,
belittled
being
and not
belittled,
taken
that whole
seriously.
thing, yeah, that sucks. That
Yeah.
really sucks.
Yeah, yeah. But on a more positive breath, thankfully those things are also social constructs. So hopefully with great education, we can really progress as a
Society?
nation and
Yep.
as a society together. We can progress so we don't have to be dumbfounded by
Stupid
comments
Yeah.
that males say.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, it's not even just males though. It's even like females. I don't
Mm.
like like any any identity. Like, if you are saying something that is just belittling another human being, why? What is the need for it?
Right?
Especially now, like, with everything going on in just like the presidential race, all of these, everything going on, the Superior Court nomination, just why so much hatred? As long as you are educated and you have facts on your side, I will not judge your personal opinion. It's when you don't know what the other person's going through, when you don't have the facts, when you're using like biased opinions of others to form your own opinion, that's when there's a problem. And, you know, you don't know what the other person's going through. So just keeping that in mind before you open your mouth, that'd be great.
True. And also, like, when you're put in a situation like that where, you know, you're trying to do your job, you're trying to hire someone and they make a comment like that, it's like, do you acknowledge it and try to fix it even though you know they're not going to listen, or do you just ignore it and just let it go? Because to be quite honest with everyone, I most of the time ignore it because, like, I don't want to deal. I don't want to throw attention on that. And sometimes even in the moment, because we're so conditioned to do what we do as women. Like, for example, I say sorry 100 times a day.
Me
And
too.
Actually, one of my coworkers this weekend, we brought this up. She was like, you should replace sorry with thank you. Like, thank you for signing this. Thank you for moving out of my way. Because, like, we're so conditioned to, like, take the blame that we don't realize. We don't realize in the moment that it's wrong.
And one thing I've trained myself to do, and it always throws people off guard, so I love doing it, is when somebody says you're sorry, when somebody says that they are sorry, and usually you have that instinct to say, oh, no problem, or like, no worries. Instead say, I accept your apology, and dead ass look them right in the eye. It'll scare the hell out of them.
Yeah, like,
I
what?
love it.
I never stare people in their eyes. Like,
I accept your apology. And so
That's
that
so
way they
crazy.
know they did something wrong, and, you know, you're not bringing yourself down to their level of whatever by saying no worries. You are brushing it off if you say no worries, which if they've done something, especially something that's discriminatory, yeah, you should acknowledge it and say, yeah, you did mess up. Like, you shouldn't have said that comment.
Yeah. I have a challenge for everyone. So just to prove that, like, women have, like, these social constructs in their life because of society, I heard this on the internet too, that if someone who is female and male are walking toward each other on the street, the male will not move out of the way. Usually the female does. So I challenge everyone to walk on the sidewalk, and if someone doesn't move out of your way, like, you don't move first. Like, have the other person move out of your way.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to, like, a male, a cis male. You know what I mean? Like, that's how conditioned we are, is to, like, people please as women, is to move out of the way on the sidewalk. You know?
I do it. And, well, like, I used to do it. Not really anymore.
I mean, I move out of the way because of, first of all, right now we're living in COVID, social distancing, and just being polite too.
Yeah.
But if you do feel comfortable, try and just stand your ground and just keep walking and see if they move out of your way, and see, like, how many people actually bump into you or get spooked, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your homework. I want a full
check
report
back in
next week.
Yep.
And honestly, like contact us, DM us on Instagram, and let us know, like,
yeah,
like, what happens, please.
Yeah, we're curious. To help us answer the question, what makes a woman, we asked some of our friends and family to help us out. Here's what they had to say.
The word woman on a superficial level means a person who identifies as a female who, through life experiences, has developed a set of characteristics and perceptions and attitudes about life. And it's those perceptions and attitudes and characteristics that are very individual to the person and unique to being a woman.
I think what surfaces most is thinking about choice and designing the life that you envision for yourself. So being a woman to me means having the right to decide for yourself and making decisions about how you want to live your life and having that autonomy over your life and your body.
Well, way back when, there was a commercial for a perfume called Enjoli, and they had a song that said, "She can bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan, and never, never, never let you forget you're a man." And I laughed because I thought it was funny, but then I thought about it, and I was like, you know what, that really does capture what a woman can do.
I just think it means being an absolute force of nature. I've kind of think of myself in that way, and yeah, I mean, just being your own, like, empowerment and empowering other girls and stuff, but yeah, just being super freaking strong.
The word woman to me means strength and versatility, that I think we are very functional and very multitasking, and I truly believe that we are the stronger gender out in this world, and we keep this world running.
Thinking a lot about the upcoming election and how the right to choose is something that's really at stake for women, and that, you know, since the beginning of time, our bodies have been something that are up for debate, and that men have decided how we should use our bodies and what we should be able to do and what we should not be able to do. So I'm thinking a lot about being a woman, and I think it means having choice and having the autonomy over your own body and your own decisions.
One of the characteristics that I think being a woman is
strong,
ambitious,
Nurturing,
Independent,
fierce,
beauty,
self-reliant,
patient,
endurance,
determined.
powerful.
and compassion.
I think those are all things that all the women that I know and love in my life possess. And I think those are all characteristics that you need to have as a woman to survive in a world that wasn't set up for you to succeed.
If it wasn't for us taking care of people and things and pets and I don't think that there's going to be a kind of compassion or love that there is out in the world.
I know a lot of women out there, and I'd like to think of myself as those three characteristics.
A woman can't be kept down. I think that if she's told that she couldn't do it, that she gets up and uses whatever strength and power she has to fight through and get to the end result, get to a successful end. I think we are a force to be reckoned with, really.
I'm one strong woman for sure.
There is no way to push a woman down and keep her down. I think that we have a lot of strength and endurance within us between giving birth to children, domestic violence, and enduring that. I think that, what we go through in the workplace and not only the abuse we take from the opposite sex, but I mean, not being paid the same, or sometimes I've had my ideas stolen and represented by somebody else, not of a female gender.
Becoming a woman for me was a very gradual event, and one day I just sort of realized that I could consider myself a woman. Although I do not have an aha moment, what I do have are a series of aha moments about the characteristics that I think define a woman.
It's kind of crazy, but I don't actually think I became a woman per se until I was actually like 21, because I actually had an event where my mom got really sick, and it became super hard because she was always the woman in my life, and she is any characteristics, any characteristic that anybody can think of a woman. My mom is it. Of course she's strong, she's ambitious, and she's super, super, super patient.
So when I had my first child at the age of 30, I would consider myself really a woman, because at this point I had a little baby to take care of, and this little package in the hospital was going home with us. And I remember putting my firstborn in the car thinking, oh my God, they're letting us go home with this little baby. There's no manuals or anything like that.
I mean, my mom's worked her entire life, and she made me her life, and to sacrifice something that much, it shows a lot. But when she got sick, I stepped up to the plate, and I took over everything. I took care of her. It's almost like we switched roles.
To take care of this child. And I really had to suck it up and become mature and grown up, so to speak, to really dedicate my life into giving this child the best world she can have, whether it's, financially nurturing, loving, caring for her, making sure she's safe. I think at that point, I really considered myself a woman.
But I think what I keep coming back to is when I first shaved my legs, which was, I believe, in 5th grade. So I would have been probably 11 or 12. And I just remember sitting in the bathtub and feeling like, wow, I'm like becoming a woman, and I have body hair like my mom. So I think that's kind of when it struck me that I had to start sort of being more conscientious and mindful of my body and how other people were perceiving my body. So yeah, 5th grade. I think that's when I had an aha moment.
So there was a time when I realized that, I can go out and get a job and do it and be good at it. And I can move away from my parents and run a house and be good at it. And I can have successful relationships that are satisfying. And it's all of those moments together that let me know that I was a woman.
It really takes a lot to be a mom. So I think that that's seriously a turning point in my life where I considered myself a full-grown, mature woman, and I think maturity has a lot to do with deeming yourself a woman.
I went from being a teenager, even at the age of 20, 21, I went from being like a young lady to a woman because I took on all this responsibility, and it kind of showed me a different way to love, and it kind of showed me how to be more ambitious as to what I want. And what I wanted was to take care of my mom, which is the most important woman in my life. But yeah, that's what that means to me. And it's crazy that I'm only 22 and I think that I became a woman at 21, but yeah, I think the true meaning had definitely come to me at that age, and considering everything that happened. But I'm actually pretty freaking proud of myself